Hey guys, it's December 13th here in Middle Tennessee. A buddy of mine went out strike fishing yesterday. We did pretty good. They seem to be running pretty good right now this time of year. Water temperature about 55 degrees. Caught them in pretty heavy current, active eddies right down from the Dover crossing. But today's video is not going to be on catching the fish. It's going to be on smoking the fish. This is something that I've done in the past that turns out very well. So the first thing you obviously want to do is go ahead and clean your fish. The way we clean them is we just take the heads off, the guts out, scale them, and throw them in a pan of water. We don't bother filleting them, especially if you're going to smoke them. In my opinion, it turns out better if you just go ahead and smoke the fish whole. Now, we like to smoke a fish that's around 10 inches or so, 8 to 10, 8 to 12, anything around that area seems to hold the smoke better. It's not overpowered by the smoke. It just seems to cook better than your smaller fish. The technique we use is called a hot smoke. This is by no means a preservation of the fish. It is simply to cook the fish and add the smoke flavor along with other flavors that we're going to talk about later. So after you get your fish clean, I like to put mine in the refrigerator in a pan of water for 24 hours. That kind of gets the river taste out of them. It brings some of the slime and stuff out. I do recommend you change your water about every hour for the first 3 hours. And then after that, I would go to about every 2 to 3 hours. Or if you're just soaking them overnight, that's fine too. You can just change the water out a couple times before you go to bed. Let them soak overnight. I wouldn't let them soak for no longer than 24 hours. You don't want the meat to get mushy or unedible. So after you do that, go ahead and give it your first soak, and then we're going to go into what you want to do in preparation to smoke the meat. Now, if you're not going to smoke the meat, you can go ahead and put the fish in a bag of water, put them in your freezer until you need them. They'll keep up to about a year like that. But if you're going to smoke your fish, let's go ahead and get started talking about that. You'll want to brine your fish first. The brine that I use is a half a gallon to a gallon of water, half a cup of salt, half a cup of sugar, and I like to use Cajun spices and a little garlic salt. We will want to go ahead and soak that for 24 hours and stir occasionally. Go ahead and mix your water up, get it all ready, and then lay your fish down in there and let that start soaking for 24 hours. When the 24 hours is complete, take your fish out of the refrigerator, dump all the water, lay your fish out, grab a paper towel, pat them dry. Be sure that the outer skin is dry on both sides, and let them set to room temperature. Now, when I say room temperature, I wouldn't let them set out for 3 or 4 hours. The maximum I recommend to let them set out would be about 30 to 45 minutes before going to the smoker. Go ahead and take this time to go ahead and bring your smoker up to temp. I like to smoke mine at about 250 to 300 degrees. So what I do is I wrap them in aluminum foil, make like a little bowl, cut my butter. I'll put my butter in the bowl. Then I will lay my fish down in my little makeshift bowl from aluminum foil. And at that time, they're ready to put on the smoke. So with our smoker up to temp, about 300 degrees, we'll go ahead and lay them in there pretty tight. If you notice, I did not put any holes in the aluminum foil for the smoke to penetrate. However, what I did was I left airspace in between the makeshift bowls for the smoke to come up through. Now, what that does is that kind of limits your smoke coming up. Therefore, you don't get a heavy smoke all on one side. So after you get your bowls put in there, it's simply a waiting game. You want to go ahead and check on your meat about an hour in, see how it looks. Be sure that it's not burning. Be sure it's not sticking. Go ahead and lift the tail of your fish up to be sure it's not sticking to the aluminum foil, and continue to let it cook. During this time, you can make a spray bottle, butter and water in it, with garlic or just simply salt water, and spray your fish down every 20 minutes or so. That's going to help replenish the moisture in your fish that it's losing due to the smoke. About 2 hours in, when the fish is done, remove your fish from the smoker, turn your smoker off, or put out the fire, and bring your fish inside. At this point, let your fish rest for 10 minutes, let the juices penetrate, go back into the meat, and you're ready to eat it. Now, what I've explained today is just one method of probably over 100. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. And don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for our next podcast.